Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to read The Whingdingdilly by Bill Peet. It's kind of a long story, so you may want to listen to it over a couple of days. Scamp flopped down heavily on the porch with a mournful sigh. The old farm dog had been in a miserable mood for a week, and no one knew why. Not even his best friend Orvie Jarvis could guess what the trouble might be. Before the dark mood crept over him, Scamp had been a happy, carefree dog. He was always up early, racing out to the barn ahead of Orvie, eager for the boy to finish the morning chores so the two of them could go rambling around the countryside. Now Scamp moped on the porch while Orvie called to him. Then he came drooping along at the boy's heels, sad-eyed and listless, not caring how long it took to finish the chores. "What's come over you, old Scamp?" asked Orvie one day. "What makes you so sad?" Scamp's only reply was a dreary sigh. There was no way of telling Orvie that he was tired of being a dog. He wanted to be a horse, not just any horse. Scamp wanted to be a great horse like Palomar, the giant Percheron, who lived on the farm just across the road. Back in those days, there were lots of buggies and wagons, so horses were very important. Palomar was especially important. He had won blue ribbons at horse shows and fairs all over the country, so he was famous. People traveled hundreds of miles to look at the great horse, and Palomar always treated the crowd to a good show by high-stepping around and around the pasture in true champion style. Everyone admired Palomar, but no one ever gave Scamp so much as a glance. No one but his friend Orvie. Scamp often dreamed that he was the famous Palomar, surrounded by his admiring crowd. Sometimes when the dog was sure no one was watching, he would imitate the great horse and go high stepping around the barn with his nose in the air. Then one day, Orvie caught him at it. "Oh, Scamp," he chortled. "What are you up to? What do you think you are, you silly old dog?" Scamp had never felt so foolish in all his life. To be called a silly old dog was more than he could bear. And while Orvie was busy feeding the chickens, Scamp went slinking out of the barn lot and on down the road. He was running away. Just where he was going he had no idea, but after trotting along for about a mile, the dog found himself panting. It was a hot summer afternoon, much too hot to be trotting about in a shaggy fur coat, and when he came to a dense woods he stopped. Scamp had heard about this place. People believed that a wicked little witch lived there, and she possessed great magic power, and if anyone dared to enter the woods, she might turn them into a stone or into a toad. But Scamp was in no mood to worry about a little witch, so in he went. It was much cooler in the dark, spooky woods, and ever so quiet. The only sound was the burbling of a brook running along through a jumble of rocks. The brook trickled down a crystal clear pool, where Scamp stopped to stare at his gloomy reflection. That was the first time he had taken a good look at himself, and more than ever he wished that he were a horse. All at once the hair on the back of his neck bristled. Someone was watching. Quickly Scamp wheeled around, looking right and left, and then finally up into a sycamore. And there was the little witch leaning out of the window of her tree house. Scamp was on his feet, all ready to run, when the witch said, "So, you want to be a horse, do you?" And before she could say scat, she flew out the door and down the steps and was nose to nose with the bewildered dog. "Why, old Zildy can turn you into a horse into a twinkling," she said, patting him gently on the head. "Oh, but I can do much better than that, doggy. How would you like to be something fantastic? The only one of its kind in all the world. A marvelous, magnificent something I call a Whingdingdilly. What do you say?" Scamp cocked his head in thought for a few seconds. Then, with a wag of his tail, he barked his yes bark. "Good dog. So we'll get on with it," she cried, snapping a twig off of a sycamore. "I don't really need a wand. Any old thing'll do. My magic power is all in the words. Just you watch." Suddenly, Zilda was dancing about like a grasshopper. Waving the twig in the air, in her high, screechy voice, she recited the magic words. "Diggity, doggity, ziddledy, zump. We'll start right off with a camel hump. Then camel hind legs, garoodle-dee-doo, with zebra stripes and a zebra tail, too. And now for a neck snickety-snap, with squarish brown spots just like a giraffe. Calumpity mumbo jumbo cudgelephant. Here's the big feet and front legs of an elephant." Zum zum zaroot. Most anything goes. So how about a rhinoceros nose? Then elephant ears, kerflippity flop, and reindeer horns, zilly zop, out the top. "I've done it! I've done it!" Zildy cried gleefully. "There you are, dog, the one and only Whingdingdilly. Go take a look at yourself." The sudden change had made him dizzy, and Scamp tottered unsteadily on his new set of legs as he turned around to face the pool. What he saw was much, too much to take in all at once. And with a loud rhino snort, he went staggering backwards. "See what I mean?" said the little witch. "Your whopping big surprise. Now I'd better skedaddle if I'm going to make cookies today." And Zildy scurried up the steps into the treehouse, leaving the Whingdingdilly wondering what he would do. Finally, he decided he'd better go home. Just as he started off, the witch called out the window, "Take care you don't step in my tulip bed with those clumsy feet of yours." In the shadows of the sycamore were rows of bright yellow flowers, and as he headed back through the trees, he was careful to step around them. Making his way through the dense woods had been easy for the dog, but now it was almost impossible for the Whingdingdilly. It was a struggle every step of the way, with his antlers catching on tree limbs, the rhino horns hooking onto vines, the clumsy elephant's feet stumbling over logs, and the camel feet tripping over the elephant feet. The going was so slow that it was near sundown when he finally made it to the edge of the woods. As Scamp poked his head around the trees, he surprised a sow and her 6 piglets. Squealing in terror, they went racing pell-mell away through the weeds. "What a fright I must be," thought Scamp. "I'm in no shape to be running around in plain sight. No telling what people might do." Then, stretching his long giraffe neck, he raised his head for a view of the countryside. As far as he could see, the fields were deserted, and so were the roads. All the farmers had gone to dinner, so there was a good chance of getting home without being seen. We're going to pause there, and I will continue in a second video.